So police have now promised that they will come down hard on the rioters if this happens again, after their soft policy seemed to fail so badly to control the troubles over the last few days. Do you think this new hard line will work, though, if it all flares up again?
This is very disturbing, Kevin. If the police are going to introduce water cannon and rubber bullets, well, I'm very regretful to say that guns have been infesting our communities increasingly in the last 2 decades under the watch of the British authorities. So if the police start shooting rubber bullets, and we know what rubber bullets did in Northern Ireland, it kills people. And if they start doing this in the streets of London and England, I'm fearing that the young people will shoot back. So I really would like the British authorities to rethink hard and fast their approach. Their approach needs to be actually addressing the root causes of this, which is a forgotten generation. This is a generation born after 81, after 85, after the big riots that happened previously.
I know, Sir Cam, but what are the police supposed to do when people are seeing they're being burned out of their flats, they're seeing their businesses raided? They want protection from the police. What are the police supposed to do then?
I understand that, but let's go to the root of the problem. Why did this start in the first place? Because the British police executed a black 29-year-old working class person in Tottenham. The British police essentially lynched him in public, and then subsequent to that they beat down a 16-year-old black girl who was part of the protest against this with the family. So if we see the root causes, the police are never there to protect our communities. They're always there to protect either property or the elites. So I don't think the police are the answer. Communities are an answer, and communities need to address the deeper social, cultural, and even spiritual reasons of why our young people are acting in this way. These are our children. We have to take responsibility.
I mean, exactly.
And we failed them for a generation.
Some of them as young as we've witnessed, and I guess that's one of the most horrific parts of it. Some of them just 8, 9, 10 years old, some of these perpetrators. Where do you start, though? And indeed, are you surprised that they're that young?
I'm not surprised at all. This is a generation where self-harm, these children cut themselves up. This is a mass phenomenon. This is a generation that's been called hoodies, chavs, locusts, gangsters. So that's the way they've been treated by the system and by people in the community. So why are we surprised that they behave in the way that we've labelled them for a whole generation?
How do you think the British Prime Minister's dealt with this situation? A lot of people have said that it's his Katrina, his Hurricane Katrina.
Well, it's a social 9/11, we can say. I mean, you know, Cameron and Johnson and Miliband were holidaying in Mediterranean while they're bombing Libya on the South Mediterranean. As Malcolm X said, you can't understand what's happening in Mississippi unless you understand what's happening in Congo. We can't understand what's happening in London unless we understand what's happening in Libya and Afghanistan. Cameron comes back after the first day of rioting from his nice little holiday, and he calls these young people criminal, and they're defying law and order. This is the same person who's directly responsible for the massacring by NATO of 85 civilians that same night, including 35 children. So let's get some perspective here. Who's the real criminal in this situation?
Let's go back to the police, the way they've handled this. They're facing, as you mentioned just now, serious criticism over the shooting of Mark Duggan. This triggered the riots. Although his family, of course, as we know, have been very quick to want to distance themselves from it. What impact will this have on the reputation of the British police, the way they've handled this now, especially the Met?
Well, the reputation is, frankly, in the dirt for black and working class people, because this is nothing new. Smiley Culture, who's a very famous reggae artist, was killed in his own home only a couple of months ago. There was another death in police custody in Birmingham. So actually their reputation is absolutely, you know, just defunct amongst these communities. But I think really, again, I think the authorities have to think hard and fast. Now, I'm seeing in my community in Ealing, which riots took place the other night, armoured police cars and robo-cops walking through my community. I mean, if there's a way to enrage and to provocate young people, they're doing the right thing.
I have to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to take in everything you're saying. Sure. Absolutely, I take in what you're saying. But, you know, the police also have a duty to protect the people I mentioned just now. They're equally not that affluent people who are having their shops raided, they're burned out of their flats, having their cars overturned. They want protection from the police. The police have their hands tied as well, rather, because they have to be very careful what they do, don't they?
Well, if we analyse what they did with Tottenham and then subsequently to Brixton, because Tottenham is the most neglected poor black community in London, they let this happen. They don't mind this happening in places like Brixton and Tottenham and other just neglected areas. But when it hits places like Ealing and Oxford Street, that's when it becomes a problem. We just have to understand the nature of policing. The nature of policing has never been there for the protection of our communities.
All right, Sukhad Chandan, thanks for being on the programme, joining us tonight from London, as you are.